Oh, okay. I guess I've solved it now. All right. Can you hear me now? All right. I guess people were not sure they could hear me. Okay. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, let me know in the comment section, and then we can start. Sorry about that. I think Facebook people were struggling to hear me. Oh yeah, thank you. You can hear now. Sorry, I think I must have pressed one button wrong. Sorry about that. Oh, one is all my initial introduction has been lost. Sorry about that. It was a technical error. I think I pressed on a button and my mic was loud. So the first thing I said for those on Facebook was to commiserate with those that were affected in our yesterday. We condemn, we're sad, we're not happy about the killings in our places of worship. We're not happy at all, and but we pray for God to comfort those who have been affected, and we're calling on our government to do more in terms of security. That was the first thing I said. And the second thing I said was to thank our volunteers and to thank all those who have supported us in terms of our outreaches. And we've been to 28 states already, and now we're still doing a few more states before we round up. So we want to thank everybody. We want to thank all our host communities. They've been very, have been pleasant, very supportive. Most of them have sent us lovely appreciation letters and messages. And you know, I mean, seeing our volunteers, I mean, it's coming out. It's been 2 years since we did those kind of community outreaches because of before after COVID hit. We're unable to do those kind of large scale community outreaches. So we're all kind of suffering from no outreaches syndrome. So, but everybody is so happy to be back on the field, putting smiles on the faces of people. And I was just saying that that is what it should be all about. It should be about touching lives, making somebody smile. We may not be able to solve all the problems in the world, but for that one person, even if it's just the health talk, even if it's just the medication or the free malaria test we did, or I mean, it makes some of them very happy. I mean, some of the community that's the KBAC, they were so excited, they were so happy, and they sent us messages. Some of them even sent us some catch gifts just to appreciate us for coming to their communities and putting smiles on the faces of the children in that community. And I think that's what ATP is all about. And I think that is what all Nigerians should be doing, trying to make our country better in our own little way, no matter how small. So that is what I have been saying for the past few minutes. Unfortunately, all of that was lost to those on Facebook. I sincerely apologize for that. So, welcome to ATP Live. Please drop your questions and let's kick it off. Let's start answering questions. If you have any questions about your children's health, please ask now. If you're on Instagram, on YouTube, please ask your questions. If you are listening to me on live audio, please drop your questions in the discussion button. If you are watching on our groups on Ask the Pediatricians, you can drop your questions on the group. If you are watching on if you are watching on the if you are watching on ATP family group or the other groups, you may need to navigate yourself to the video itself before you can ask your question. So I think that is just all I was trying to say. All right, so feel free to, I can see a lot of comments. Thank you, Facebook, people, for letting me know you couldn't hear me. I really appreciate you for helping me to realize that. So please drop your questions now and let's go on so that we can. I can't see any question yet. It's on Instagram, or is today no question day? I'm happy. I'm happy to just talk. I'm happy to just talk as well. So please drop your questions. And also to remind us that next week on Saturday, we're having a special ATP Live, and it's going to be about nutrition. So nutrition is one topic that most parents always want to ask about. My children is not eating, or my children doesn't eat, and all that. So please join us on Saturday at 6 p.m. in the evening for a special edition of ATP Live, where we're going to be talking about better nutrition for every child. And that particular episode is sponsored by Peak 456 by Friesland Campina. We appreciate them for sponsoring that episode. So I look forward to seeing all of you also on Saturday at 6 p.m. and by God's grace. So, but we are here now. So please ask your questions and we can move on. Okay, seems like we don't have any questions today. Okay, I don't know whether we don't have any questions or the questions are not showing up on my screen, but I definitely can't see any question yet. But let me just check on our group whether the questions are there. If you have any question, please feel free to drop your questions now. I believe you can hear me now. Okay, yeah. Yes, I can't see any question yet. Maybe everybody's not in the mode for question and answer. Okay, yeah. Okay, there's sound now. You can hear me now. Okay. Oh, am I in the wrong group on Instagram? I think I'm in the right group on Instagram. Okay. Okay, let's go. Oh, okay. Finally, I think I've got one question. All right. So the first question I'm getting on Facebook is Abiomo Bemi. That might be my namesake. My daughter of 10 years old usually complains of chest pain, stomach pain, and she forgets things easily. Okay, chest pain, stomach pain. For how long has she been having chest pain, stomach pain? Because those are not very specific. So, have you been to the hospital about that before? And how long has she been having that? Because you say usually, so a child should not usually be complaining of chest pain. So it's not something that the child should be having like often, because that's my understanding of the word usually. So a child should not be having chest pain and abdominal and stomach pain like all the time. So you need to really take her to the hospital. It will be helpful for me if I know how long she'll be having chest pain, where they see complaining of the pain. There are so many like questions we need to ask about the pain for us to know what is causing the chest pain or what is causing the abdominal pain, because there are so many things that can cause that kind of symptoms. But because this is a kind of a live program, it's not going to be easy for us to be able to do a lot of the back and forth. So that is number one. So in terms of the pain, especially if she's complaining about it a lot, then you really need to take her to the hospital and to see a pediatrician, preferably who can ask you all these questions, and then they'll be able to know the cause of the pain. Is it something that has to do with our lungs? Is it something that has to do with our heart? Is it something that has to do with the ribs? There are so many parts of the body that can cause pain. The same thing with the abdominal pain as well. There are so many things that can cause abdominal pain, depending on where the pain is, depending on how the pain is and all that. So, and of course, there are information that we can get by examining the child as well. So that kind of a question is too very unspecific to be able to tell you something about that. So for that, you really need to take her to the hospital and to see a doctor. Also, you said she forgets things easily. again, that is something that will require us kind of sitting down together and teasing it out. When you say she forgetting season, how is she doing at school? Is she passing her exam? Is she failing exams? Is she like absent-minded on all that? So for this kind of issues, it's best to have a consultation, not it's not a one answer kind of a question. So if your child has like that kind of a issue, you need to see a pediatrician. They need to sit with you. They need to ask you several questions, and then they can take it up from there. So I'm sorry, it's not something we can just tell you blanket answer exactly. So okay, you said it's been going on for 3 years, so that's a very, very long time. So I believe that you must have taken her to the hospital at one point, because I won't expect a child who have abdominal pain for 3 years not to have been seen by a doctor. So I want to believe you should see one. You mentioned about the warming. The warming is not does not solve all the causes of abdominal pain. There are so many things that can cause abdominal pain. It has something to do with the worming or worm infestation. So the worming does not automatically solve abdominal pain. It doesn't even. What about the chest pain? What about the forgetfulness and all that? So it's good to deworm a child, but it's not necessarily the cause of abdominal pain. And it's really one that's been going on for 3 years. I'm going to recommend, very strongly recommend. I believe you must have seen a doctor before. So the question is, why is it happening over and over again? But the answer is, say, going back to the doctors, because if it's something going on for long and for 3 years, then we are going to be think there are causes we think about. Then we also want to even be sure, number one, what kind of pain she has, because sometimes some children also say they have pain, sometimes not because they really have pain, but because they want to escape some things. So you say, especially because you're bringing a child who is forgetful, is she having bullied at school and all those kind of things. So there are many things that also like what we call psychosomatic pain, especially when the pain doesn't have any specific cause and no specific treatment, then we have to look at all those things. So it's not something that we can tease out. I'll recommend seeing a pediatrician offline so that we can really take time to do a thorough evaluation. Happy. How that's helpful. Sorry, it's not something we can solve online. Yeah. Okay, the next question is I would like to know why my 6-month-old daughter stretches both legs and hand up at the same time. There's nothing wrong with children stretching their legs and their hands. I get this kind of questions a lot of time. I'm not sure whether parents expect their children to be like statues, like completely motionless and not moving, but that is not what we expect as pediatricians. We expect babies to move their hands, we expect them to move their legs. So there's nothing wrong with babies moving their legs and their hands. But if you think, but there are some kind of movement that worries us, and that is when children have what we call seizures, when they are doing what we call involuntary movements, okay, and it tends to be different. Those kind of movement, they tend to be different. They tend to be like sometimes the child is not conscious of it, or sometimes they occur suddenly, like out of the blue. You will just notice that it's something different from a child who is just randomly moving their hand. This will occur. It will usually have a firm beginning, it will have a firm end. Then it may happen several times. So, but usually the beginning and the end will be clear cut. It's different from a child who is just naturally moving their hands and legs. So, what I normally tell parents is if you are not sure which one it is, whether it's something you should worry about or not, you can do a video recording of it. Do a video recording, show your pediatrician, and then we can tell you, okay, this movement is normal or this movement is abnormal, okay? But children are not meant to be statues, so they are not meant to keep their hands and legs still 24/7. They are supposed to be moving it. And even in their sleep, sometimes they move it, and there's something wrong with that. So if your child is having seizure, it's an abnormal kind of a movement, okay? And sometimes parents are not sure. But one thing with seizures is that seizures are usually something that starts suddenly and ends suddenly. Most time the children are not aware. Most time you cannot stop it. So if a child is moving their hands randomly and you hold them, they will stop or they will smile. You can, but a child who is having seizure, who is checking, who is convulsing, you can't stop them. Whether you hold their hands or not, they will keep on going and then it will stop on its own. So those are the different ways by which we differentiate seizures. But if you are not sure, it's possible, yes, do a video recording, thank God these days almost everybody has video camera on their phones, so you can always record it and show the pediatrician, and then we can take it up from there. Okay, so you said you've already sent the video to us on our Facebook group. Okay, we'll look at that, yes, and we will approve it later and let you know. But I think over the weekend we got so many questions about infantile spasm, and every parent is just worried about whether the child is having a seizure or having infantile spasm just because they are moving their hands or because they are groaning and all that. And what I did was to try and let parents, you have to have seen a child who is having infantile spasm for you to appreciate whether your child is having it or not, because it is very, very classical kind of, it's sudden and it's so brief, and then it happens several times. But the child is just moving their hands randomly all the time and crying or smiling and all that. They are not having infantile spasm. But when they have it, you will know when the child is having it, you will know when it ends. It's always very, very dramatic kind of a thing. And but then sometimes it may be very subtle and may not be clear. So I don't know whether that is why many parents are now worried about all these seizures and all that. It's not something to worry about. But if you think you're not sure, then it's better to do a video and let us see it and all that. And I know there's some parents will like, oh, they're still not sure. If you see what, there's no point to worry. If you think your child is having seizure, you can just send them to a pediatrician. There are ways to confirm if child is having seizures. There are tests we'll do. There are things we will see, so we'll be sure. So sometimes, even as doctors, we may not always be sure. Then we can always do our EEG or do other things that will help us to know if a child is having seizures or not. But most of the time, we always know just looking at it, because it will tend to happen and happen again. All right. The another person say, my daughter's navel keeps bulging out. Is there something to worry about? So if your daughter's navel is bulging out, that means that child has hernia umbilical hernia. So hernia is just basically a protrusion through a small hole in the body. So there are different areas where you can have hernia. You can have hernia on the umbilicus or the navel, or you can even have it in the inguinal area. That's the private part, coming out through the areas there. You can have hernia if you have had an operation and an incision. If there can be a hernia, once there's a space somewhere and things can pass through it, then that can give you hernia. So it depends on how big it is or how serious it is. Most hernias, we just leave it alone. Actually, for babies, the baby is 6 weeks old, we will not do anything about it if it's not so big, because in children, most of the time, by the time they're about a year old, sometimes they wait as late as 5 years old, it could resolve by itself. So we don't need to do an operation. But if it's a very big one and it is causing problem, like it's getting obstructed, like it can't go down by itself, or it's causing pain for the child and all that, then you have to see the pediatric surgeons, and then they can operate it. They can repair the hernia. If it's an inguinal hernia or what we call femoral hernia as well, most of the time those ones have to be repaired. They have to be fixed by the surgeon. So you have to see your pediatricians who can refer you to the pediatric surgeons who can do the operation. But most of the time for umbilical hernia, is very, very common in Black children. Most of the time, most of them will resolve by the age of 5. Most of them are mild. We don't do anything about it. I mean, most of you are familiar with people that has idodo, like we call it in Yoruba land, idodo and all that. It's something people it's just part of them. But some mothers worry about it for cosmetic reasons, or it's giving some children problem. Yes, it can be operated and repaired, but we only do that if it's really, really needed to be done. Otherwise, we'll just let it be. Okay. I think I'll just take one of the questions on Instagram, then we can continue. If not, I may forget Instagram people. All right. Okay, I think I'm sorry. I'm looking for the Instagram question. Sometimes it's always so hard for me to scroll through. Okay, I think I've done that. I just want to make sure I didn't miss out a question at the beginning, so that's why I have to scroll back. Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Lots of good evenings. Okay, the first question by Tweety Lee say, good evening, my 28-month-old took the first dose of MMR in April. Is it too late for the second dose? It is never too late. So usually before we used to give MMR, like we'll give it at 1 year, then we'll give the second dose maybe 4 to 6 years. But now I think they are changing it now. Like you can actually take the second dose within the first month. So if you take one, you can take your second dose by a month after. So it is never too late. You can just go for the second dose. When did you take the first dose? April. So this is June. You can go for your second dose. You don't have to start all over again. Just to take the second dose. Then Faith Amadi is saying, my baby of 10 months sweat a lot when sleeping, but sleep well. I don't know if it's normal. There's nothing wrong with sweating. And when people say sweat a lot, it's a bit subjective. So you need to really tell us what is sweating a lot. So I always tell parents, sweating will worry me if a child is sweating when everybody is freezingly, I mean, like they're freezing and shivering and cold, and another child is sweating. So that is when we will worry as pediatrician, but that's abnormal. But if the house is all, the room is, I mean, you're not, the room is hot and all that, the child is overdressed and all that, they will sweat. So usually the first thing you need to do, make sure you reduce the layers. Don't wear too thick clothes and heavy clothes for children, excuse me. Okay, so don't wear something too thick for them, especially when the weather is hot. Let them wear something light to sleep. Make sure the room is well ventilated. Let them sleep under AC. Let them sleep with a fan. There's nothing wrong with that, and all that. So some children sweat a lot, obviously more than other people. But if you are making sure the child is well ventilated and all that, I mean the house is well ventilated and the child is not overdressed, it's okay. But if you think the child is really sweating much, in other words, if the house is cold, everybody's shivering, you are wearing your sweaters, and the child is still is sweating away, then you may want to see a pediatrician and we can check. Okay, so some people is natural, but some children may have some other problems, like children with what we call high level of thyroid hormones. They may have, they tend to sweat a lot. They tend to be hot when everybody is cold and all that. But it's a very rare stuff, really. So most of the time, it is just the fact that the house is hot and the children needs the room cooler. And sometimes of us close our windows and everything at night. You should actually open them and let there be a lot of ventilation around. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Okay, that's for Facebook. I mean Instagram. I don't see any question on live audio, so I'll continue with Facebook. Um, Okay, the next question by Chidima. Please, how do we have a baby of 4 months, 3 weeks to correct flat head? There's nothing you can do about the head. Just leave it alone. It will correct by itself, okay? Babies don't get flat head by sleeping on the back, except they are preterm babies. So babies that are preterm, because they tend to have their head, for lying on one position for a long time. So those are the ones that tend to have that. But it's something that corrects itself over time. So we don't do anything about it. We just leave it. And it's okay for children to have different shapes of head. I know some people are very, they make fun comments about them, but really it's wrong to do that. Just let them be. Nobody's going to go and operate their head because you want to correct the head. And forget all those grandparents saying they are molding the head and all that. It's not true. They're not going to mold anything. It's not going to change anything. So just let the baby's head be. Over time, things may correct itself. Okay, the next question. My 2-year-old has been having stomach pain. Okay, so you have to take the child to the hospital because, like I said, if child is having pain, we need to ask you like several questions. Where is the pain? Or, we have to ask other questions about the pain. How often is it happening, and all that. And sometimes for a 2-year-old, they may not be able to localize what is wrong, and everything is abdominal pain, but it may not be. So we need to really take a lot of time to ask questions. We need to examine the child, and that we'll see whether we can get an answer to the cause of the abdominal pain, because there are so many of them. and then we can now deal with it. Sometimes there's actually no cause as well, but we need to see the child first. Okay. Abiyamo Gbemi say you visited the hospital, doctor says you outgrow. I I believe they should first tell you what is wrong before you say somebody will outgrow. I don't understand how somebody has grown chest pain, abdominal pain. It's not something you should outgrow. It's not like an allergic condition or something like that. So you should get that sorted. I recommend you should see a pediatrician first. If she's still having the pain, or so see a pediatrician. A pain of 3 years, you should see a pediatrician and be sure what you may want to go to a tertiary level or teaching hospital. That's best. Okay, in what case they say what food can a new mother eat to help her boost her breast milk? She should eat normal food, but drink a lot of water. Okay, there's I know that a lot of people swear by some food, like if you take this one, if you take that one, it will help you to lactate more. It's okay if you want to take it. Some people swear by pap, some people swear by maybe taking milk and all those kind of things. Most of them are just I would like call it like everybody's perception, but some people will claim it works. As long as it is food and it's not alcohol or drugs, it's okay for you if you want to take them. But honestly, what we recommend as pediatricians is that you should just eat well, eat what you would normally eat, and drink water. More importantly, rest and relax and breastfeed your baby. What makes your milk to flow is your baby sucking on that breast, because breast milk is demand and supply. As long as your baby is sucking and emptying the breast out, then the milk will flow. And as long as you are not also worried and anxious about your lactation, then your milk will flow. But if you are worried and anxious, you're actually going to block your hormones that is going to the hormones that regulates breast milk production. You block them by the stress hormones. So we tell mothers, relax, eat well, rest well, sleep well, let your baby suck on the breast, to flow. But any other food they tell you that will help you, it's okay. But please don't take alcohol, don't take palm wine. So that's one I would say. All right. Pecan, okay. Are you talking about a 3-year-old, or your 10-year-old, and they're recommending pecan? I'm not sure which hospital you are going, but I think you should change it and go to a teaching hospital and see a pediatrician there. Okay, another question is, my 7-year-old has recurring rashes like measles rash. They have treated him for measles, and the color of his eyes are like pale yellow. So, number one, every rash that looks like measles is not measles. Measles is a viral infection, and measles tend to occur after what we call the 3 C's of measles. So before the child will have the measles rash, they will have the red eyes, they will have the cough, and they will have the catarrh or running nose. So they have those ones first. Then a few days later, and they will have fever, of course, eye fever. Then a few days later, then they'll come up with a rash. And that's a typical way measles rash look like. So most people that just have rashes without any of those things, without fever, without red eyes, without catarrh, without cough, you don't have measles. Okay, I know some mothers, every rash is either measles or chickenpox. It is not. Okay, so your child cannot be having recurring rashes that is measles. By definition as well, measles does not reoccur. So the fact that you haven't said the rashes is reoccur already make sure it told me it's not measles. Okay, the only kind of rashes that tend to reoccur are what we call allergic kind of skin rashes, allergic conditions. Those are the ones that tend to come and go. So it's not measles, just throw away the measles out of it. So what you really need to do is to see either a pediatrician or a dermatologist to see you and kind of explain what is going on to you, for you to really understand what is going on. Because the thing about rashes is that they tend to for allergic conditions, it's more about your understanding. It's not about looking for the cure, because they don't have a cure. It's still going to happen again. But there are some what we call trigger factors, things that tend to make it happen more, then you need to avoid it, and things to do when it happens, how to reduce the rashes. So those kind of conditions, some people outgrow them, some people will always have them. They always have those sensitivity, because that is part of who you are. So those are the kind of conditions that tend to occur. If your child eyes are yellow, a 7 years old eye is yellow, we worry about it. We have to rule out hemoglobin excess, that is sickle cell anemia, or we have to rule out those kind of things. Really, if it is always happening, some people actually have, for a child who is also having allergic condition, they can also actually have allergic conjunctivitis, but it will be brownish, not yellow. But then sometimes parents use colors incorrectly, so it's better we see it ourselves and decide whether it's yellow or brown or green, or because they all have different implication. But if I take your word that is yellow, then we need to make sure that this child does not have sickle cell anemia. So you need to take the child to have a blood test. Some children also have hepatitis and all that, but then they also have other symptoms along with it. So it won't just be high turning yellow, but it's a very serious symptom or a very serious sign if a 7-year-old's eyes is looking yellow. We are very worried about it. So you really, really need to see a doctor, preferably a pediatrician, so that they can do a proper evaluation for the child, and then they will advise you on what next to do. Okay, Maria is saying my baby is 8 weeks old. When she was 5 weeks old, she started pulling every 4 days. When she was 5 weeks old, okay, she pulled last Monday. Last week she's on EBF. That is perfectly normal for babies who are on exclusive breastfeeding. They can go for days without passing stools, and that is absolutely normal. It's nothing to worry about. And when they pass their stools, the stools will be normal stools. It shouldn't be hard. It will just be normal. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So just keep breastfeeding exclusively. We have a lot of resources for first-time moms. So there's a first-time mom companion, first-time mom frequently asked questions. If you can get a hold of those products, it will be very helpful for you. So you know all the normal versus what is abnormal, for what you need not to worry about versus what you need to worry about. I recommend our FTM series. Ikra Babo say, is it okay not to feed me when he's sleeping at night? Okay, I guess you are trying to ask whether it's okay not to feed your baby when your baby is sleeping at night, your 8-month-old baby, okay? So what are you feeding this 8-month-old baby with? So 8-month-old baby should be on complementary feeding, and 8-month-old baby should also be taking breast milk. So it's okay to breastfeed your baby at night, and you can breastfeed them when they are sleeping. Most of the time, the baby asks, they demand for the food. They they wake up, they will make signs that they want to suck. You don't necessarily have to wake the baby up to feed them, because they will demand for the food. But the complementary feeding, try and do that one during the daytime. So an 8-month-old should be fed at least 3 times in a day, with semi-solid food, complementary food, and then you can breastfeed on demand, and you can breastfeed at night as well. But usually by this age, when they start taking solids, some of them, they are okay through the night. They can sleep through the night without requesting for milk. But some of them will still request for, depending on your baby. So most important is that your baby is feeding well. So we want you to keep breastfeeding the baby at the same time, even when you have started complementary foods. But you don't need to wake them up to give them bottle at night, unless you are not breastfeeding at all. And bottle feeding is what you do before you start complementary feeding, then it's okay to do that. I hope that is the question, because it's a little bit unclear. Okay, the next question, Maria said, my 8 weeks baby is there to pull for about 7 days. Okay, is it the same, Maria? Was it the same question I asked her before? Yeah, it's your question. Okay, you are still the same person. Yes, there's nothing to worry about. Sometimes they can go for 2 weeks. As long as they're exclusive breastfed, baby is fine. Baby is not having abdominal swelling. They're not vomiting. They are otherwise well healthy baby. You don't need to worry. The baby will eventually pass this too. So just relax. Okay. Okay. So Maria again. I think I've answered your question now. Yeah, it's the same question. And then another person say, what can I do to stop my baby from sucking? Okay, how old is this baby? I think it's more important for me to know how old the baby is. I guess you want to talk about weaning your baby. Well, usually we encourage you to breastfeed your baby for as long as possible. You can do 2 years and above. That's what the WHO recommends anyway. So the longer the better. So if you now want to wean your baby off, you don't need to put bitter leaf in the breast and all that. I mean, that's very mean and cruel to the child. So what you need to do is to reduce the breastfeeding rate. So you for reduce, maybe if you are breastfeeding throughout the whole day, you may decide to stop the night daytime and only breastfeed at night. So, and then maybe after a week or so, you just suddenly stop. Obviously, the child is going to protest, they're going to cry. Some people take the children maybe to the grannies for a weekend or something, but you just make up your mind. I find that it's the mother that has to be psychologically ready to win. Once you are ready, usually by the time you are winning, the child is already eating, well, they are already on full adult family diet. So the breast milk is more like a token for them. So once you stop, you stop, and get ready for all the cries. But within 1 or 2 days, everything will stop. And you may have some pain. You can use painkillers. You need to wear firm bras, and you may feel some fullness of the breast. You can apply ice packs or things like that. Just something to relieve you for the first 2 3 days. Those are the most difficult period. After that, it will resolve. So if you want a lot more tips on weaning your baby off the breast, we have an article on that on our website, askthepediatricians.com. We have an article on simple tips for weaning, but that's all I've said. But usually once you master the first 2 days, you'll be fine. It's okay. But make sure your baby is at least a year plus before you win them. They still need their breast milk below that. Okay, another question is, at what age does infantile spasm start? I also want to go back to work as well. Infantile spasm can start at any time. Usually it tends to occur in children below the age of 1 year, that the name suggests, but it can actually occur in old children. So that's why sometimes we call it epileptic spasms. So yeah, take my baby to daycare. So I introduced him to Nan because I don't know how hygienic it is to give the breast milk to Nanny. So if you are going to go back to work, that doesn't stop you from exclusive breastfeeding your baby. What you need to do is express your breast milk. In any nanny that is worth being called by the name nanny should know how to handle breast milk, okay? And most of them should have fridges. All you need to do is to express your breast milk, and they keep it in the fridge. And when your baby needs to suck, they will just go get it out and warm it up and give the baby. So we prefer you do that. She can preserve it as long as she has a fridge. And even if you don't have a fridge, it depends on how long your baby is going to be at the nanny. Your breast milk can actually stay at room temperature for 6 hours. So if you express your breast milk at, let's say, 12 noon, for example, even to 6 p.m. without putting it in the fridge, it is good. So I don't know how long you're going to be at work for, but your breast milk can stay at room temperature for 6 hours. And it can stay in the fridge for at least 5 days, without anything, altering it. So most nannies should have fridges because they know they need to keep the breast milk, and so it's something that is possible to do. So it's better to keep breastfeeding exclusively. So going back to work is not an excuse not to exclusive breastfeed. But anyway, we are also pushing for the Nigerian government to give nursing mothers 6 months maternity leave, so that when you're maternity leave for 6 months with pay, there's no reason for you to rush back to work, and then you can actually do your exclusive breastfeeding. How that's helpful. Somebody is saying, when a child gets rotavirus vaccine, which is to prevent excessive vomiting, but after a child gets the vaccine, is or she still vomits with a green pigment. Okay, rotavirus is actually to prevent rotavirus infection. And rotavirus infection tends to cause what we call gastroenteritis, or it tends to cause diarrhea. Not necessarily vomiting is diarrhea, but it can also occur with vomiting. Anyway, so that's for us to correct your impression that the rotavirus vaccine is to stop excessive vomiting. No, rotavirus vaccine is to stop rotavirus infection, which tends to actually cause diarrhea mostly, not vomiting. Of course, you can have vomiting, but when you say a child is having excessive vomiting, you should see a doctor. It has something to do with rotavirus and all that. So if your child is already having excessive vomiting, then that kind of a child needs to see a doctor first, and it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do whatsoever with taking rotavirus vaccine. Anyway, this is why when you want to take oral vaccines, they will tend to advise you not to breastfeed like close to the time you want to get the vaccine, or immediately after, because the chances of a baby spitting up of vomiting is higher if you just fed them or feed them immediately after the vaccine. So because I don't know how soon your child vomited, but if your child vomited immediately after taking the vaccine, the child has not taken the vaccine. So the child actually may have vomited the vaccine. So at least the child should not vomit within 30 minutes. So if your child vomit within 30 minutes of taking a vaccine, it actually needs to be repeated because it's likely the child has not taken that vaccine because the child has vomited it. So, and it's very painful. So I don't know, you didn't tell us the timeline as soon, like how long did it take before the child vomited? So if the child vomited within 30 minutes, I'm afraid you may still have to repeat the vaccine. But if it's over like an hour, you don't need to worry. You can be sure that vaccine has been is taken already. I hope that's helpful. And then Ogechi, say good evening, ma. Please, can I use Agnes dusting powder on my baby who is a month and 3 days? She has prickly ears on her neck, face, and back. Though she had jaundice at birth, and we're told not to use dusting powder on her. Number one, I really always like to be sure whether what you're describing is actually prickly ears because mothers tend to also cause all sorts of rashes, itch rashes, which they are not. Okay, so for newborn babies, it's a little bit tricky because there are a lot of rashes they can have. And some of them, really, all you need to do is to leave it alone. And if your baby is actually having rashes a lot, what you need to do is to avoid what is making babies to have itch rashes. Okay, and the number one reason why newborn babies have itch rashes is because we overwrap them, we overdress them, we are so scared of them catching cold because we believe that the cold is in the hair, and so hair and breeze must not blow on them at all, which is actually not true. Okay, so newborn babies, you dress them according to the weather. If the weather is hot, you wear them lighter cotton wears. If the weather is cold, depending on which part of the world you are living, you wear them thicker clothes. But please, I think in Nigeria, we overdo that wrapping of newborns, baby. We are wearing them three levels of clothes, and then we're still wrapping them in the big shawl and everything with the caps and the mittens and the socks. They're always sweating, and then the room is like an oven, like there's no window open, no AC on, no fan on. There's no reason why our babies will not have those itch rashes. So the first thing to do is to deal with all those things I mentioned about. Make sure your room is ventilated. It's okay to use the AC in your room. It's okay to use the fan with open windows. Circulation of the hair, not the fan on the baby directly. And to rest your baby according to the weather. If the weather is really hot, please don't overwrap the baby. And it's not a law that every baby must have a cap and a minting and a socks on. And Nigerian mothers always be like as if their baby must always have a cap on. Even when they are going in the hot sun, the cap is on. It is not true. They don't need it. It's not written in the constitution that babies must always have that knitted cap on. No, it's not necessary. So you dress baby according to the weather. So if you do that, that alone will cool down the baby and the itch rashes will go on its own. So that is what you're going to do. So if your doctors have recommended that you should not use a particular dusting powder, then you should not, because if your baby has jaundice, there's some kind of jaundice babies have, like if it's due to GCPD deficiency, we don't want you to use some products because those products will worsen the jaundice. It's caused baby to hemolyze. So I'm suspecting that there is a particular reason why your doctor has said don't use the itch rashes. A particular powder because of that reason. Then you should not. But what you should focus on is cooling down your baby and not unnecessarily overeating the baby, because that is what is causing the rashes. Actually, there's nothing else. And some rashes, like I said, if it's not heat rash, some rashes in babies are just normal rashes that will clear on its own. You don't really need to do anything. Sometimes it's you're doing things that will worsen it. So if you're not sure, you can post us a picture on our Facebook group, then we can have a look and we can advise you appropriately. But that's the most important thing to do, is to make sure that the underlying cause itself, we have addressed it. All right, I think our time is running up, and I will just take the remaining questions. I think I have one more question on Instagram as well. I'll try and handle that. Somebody on Ofiok, God bless you. My baby is 9 months old, has 5 teeth, but this afternoon her body is hot, and up till now, I've used a thermometer. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. You get a thermometer. If your baby is hot, every mother must have a thermometer. Okay, it is written in the pediatrician's constitution. You must have a digital thermometer at home. If your baby is hot, bring out your digital thermometer, check the temperature. If it is 37.5 and above, you can do things to reduce the to reduce the fever. There are many ways you can reduce the fever. You can give the child a cool bath. A cool bath is just normal water, normal temperature water, or you can just use tepid sponging, like get a small towel, put it in that same normal temperature water and dab the baby, and as the water evaporates, the babies will cool down. Or you can just give paracetamol. I mean, you should always have paracetamol. Always have paracetamol at home. So depending on the age of your child, you can give the right dose of paracetamol. No teething drugs, please. Teething is not the cause of fever, okay? And teething does not make your child to be sick. It does not make your child to have fever. And so please, we do not recommend teething drugs ever. None of those drugs should ever be given to children. If your child is having fever, you can give the paracetamol. If the fever is not going down, please take the child to the hospital. Don't ever make a diagnosis of teething, and don't ever give teething mixture ever. All right, I hope that's clear for Udoji. Okay, I just want to see whether I have one question on. Okay, I have a lot of questions on Instagram, so let me just take the Instagram family question. Yeah, I've answered the sweating question. Okay, the next question is by Adupe Baby. Good evening, ma'am. My baby of 3 weeks is being fussy from colic. Administer gripe water, still no changes. He raises his leg, groans. I have to call my midwife. It has been cut off. Okay, so just relax. Colic is going to come and it's going to go away. Sometimes there's no solution to colic. It will go by itself. So all you need to do is to make the child comfortable. So some children respond to cuddle them. Some children respond to, rocking them back and forth. Some children respond to all the white noises. There are so many of those things you can do. We don't recommend gripe water. We recommend Infacol right instead. So it may help, it may not help, but the good news is that it will come and it will go away. So you just need to find how to kind of, comfort your baby, and each child responds to different things. So if you go to our Facebook our website, we have an article on colic and all the different measures that can work. The most important thing is that just try and get the child comfortable. It's a passing phase and it will go away. All right. If you want to, for you, I'll recommend our FTM series. We answer all those things are also in the FTM companion and the FTM frequently asked question, what to do, all those. But you can also check it on our website as well. Somebody is asking, how do you treat oral thrush? Okay, you need to see a doctor. We can prescribe. Oral thrush is a fungal infection. So we have antifungal medication that we prescribe, and that is you can give the child. You also need to be treated, especially if you already have it on your breast milk, on your nipple, because mothers, most time when your baby has oral thrush, you also have nipple thrush. So most time you need to treat both at the same time. But if you don't have, it's fine, but your baby needs to be treated. You need to say, doctor, we can prescribe the antifungal medication. It's not an over-the-counter drug, so you need the doctor to prescribe it. Then Udo Mbalewe saying, my son was given Oralax by the P to be used every 12 hours. Okay. It started on Friday, but I noticed a type of non-itchy rash on Sunday. Friday, Sunday. It's possible. It's possible. We don't know. I don't know what your doctor is treating in the first instance. So it's a little bit difficult. I think the best person to ask this question is your doctor, because if your doctor is treating something that can also give you a rash, it's possible, but it could also be a drug rash as well. So and you didn't tell us where the rash is. You didn't tell us how extensive the rash is. Usually allergic rashes tend to be all over. They all over the body. They are usually more extensive and all that. So unlike if it's a rash that is just localized to one particular part of the body. So I'll recommend having that conversation with your pediatrician to know what to do. So usually if it's a drug reaction, we usually will stop the drug. That's what we normally do. And then we need to give you an alternative. So you still definitely need to see your pediatrician to make up his or her mind on whether the rash is related to the drug or it's not. But I think safely, you may just want to stop the medication and just get to see your pediatrician first, and then you can decide whether, depending on what your pediatrician says, whether to continue or not. But usually, I will give you an alternative for that. Okay, I think somebody saying, what is the cause of sinking pool? Okay, so when we say sinking pool, we tend to use that word to mean the diarrhea, like a diarrhea stool, like watery stool. So if a child is having watery stool, it will be like urine, and it will go down completely in the pool, in the diaper. You didn't tell us the age of the child, so you didn't tell us the scenario, so we can't really know. But I can just tell you that a pool that sinks completely in the diaper is most likely watery stool, and that is diarrhea. But then diarrhea, you have to have passed it like 3 times before it qualifies to be called diarrhea. So we really need to have context. So this is not a very specific question. All I can tell you that this is a watery stool, but without the context around the age of the child, the context, how many times has happened and all that, I cannot even tell you categorically that it's diarrhea, but I can tell you it's a watery stool. But you must have passed it 3 times for it to be called diarrhea alone. Okay. Somebody is asking, okay, I don't know. I've been sucking her hand. I don't know whether you've asked the earlier part of the question, but I can't say it. Somebody said quite educative. Thank you. How do I stop a 9-month-old from sucking her hands? I use bitter leaf. Oh, I don't know. Today's bitter leaf day. Everybody's using bitter leaf from winning. So please don't use bitter leaf. All right. So most babies suck their hands. It's an habit, and they do it out of boredom. Sometimes they do it to comfort themselves and all that. It's not. It's just something they discover by chance, and then they just love it, and they just keep going at it. So usually we just tell you something they will outgrow, they will stop it by themselves. You can give them alternative, kind of distract them, put something in their hands. Usually for a 9-month-old, I'd rather say give is it a girl or so give us something that she can hold in her hands and play with. When they're doing something with their hands, they are not likely to suck their hands. So also all those things that make the child to want to suck, like when baby is hungry, don't wait for them to start sucking their hand before you feed them. Make sure if they're tired, you kind of find other ways to kind of comfort them or get them to sleep without them resorting to the sucking of their hands. But sometimes no matter what you do, they will just keep doing it until they outgrow you by themselves. But those are just a few tips that you can use to get them to stop. If you go to our Facebook group, I think we have an article or a post on that. I'm sure somebody would have linked you to that post so that you can see all the various tips on stopping that. But you don't need to panic about it. Something most of them will outgrow. Somebody say my 9-month-old is bringing out her first stage. She's been cranky. She feels hungry easily. That's okay. I'm exhausted. Exhausted by what? By feeding the baby? I don't know. So it's okay for when you say baby is cranky and feels hungry, is it that baby is sucking more, or is it eating the complementary food? You have to be very specific. So I guess for you to be telling me you're exhausted, I guess baby is sucking more. And that's an assumption I'm making, but you can correct that. There's nothing wrong with that. Usually babies do that when they are looking for a form of comfort. So sometimes they use the sucking as a form of comforting for themselves. So it's okay. It's just a few days. Once the teeth are out, they go back to themselves. So just hang on with us. All right. So you'll be fine. It's just a few days and it will be over. Okay, so Joyce is saying, good evening, ma'am. My 3-year, 5-month-old find it difficult to sleep on her own, except to force her. I followed all doctors' advice, but she's not sleeping on her own. I'm not sure which advice you followed, but the truth of the matter is that most children don't want to sleep on their own if you don't force them, because they just want to keep on playing, especially the toddlers. They want to keep, especially if you use a lot of screen and all that, they just want to keep on going and going. So sometimes you need to have a routine. And so some children, you have to start your bedtime routine very early. So you start winding them down. You start, you don't just get to the bedtime and just say, off to bed. It's not going to happen. They're not going to sleep. So you need to start, gradually bringing them down before bedtime. So let's say your bedtime is 8. You want them to go to bed by 8. By 6, you should start your bedtime routine. So better routine could be things like, if you had dinner early, then you no more screen, no more TV, no more of that. Maybe it's going to have a bath, or it's going to have a story time, reading stories and all that. And then of course maybe if the light is off. Some children prefer the lights on, depending on what they like. And of course something calming, even down to the curtains, down to the rooms. Sometimes you have to use some fragrances like lavender. Some people say it tends to help children to calm down. So you need to build them into that routine. So once they know that, okay, bedtime, it's time to have a bath, they know that, okay, the bedtime routine has started. So you need to start doing all that before they will eventually go to sleep. It's not going to happen in one day, and it's not going to happen in 1 week. It's something that you will build over time. But the earlier the better. You need to start getting 3-year-olds to know this is bedtime, and then these are things we do. So once they even start the routine, it's just like they themselves already going into that routine of, they know it's about time to fall asleep. So sometimes if your children are already sleeping too late, you cannot just go from, if they are sleeping at 12 midnight or 11 p.m., you can't just go straight to 8 p.m. from that. You may want to cut it back 1 hour at a time. So let's say they are always sleeping 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you can go back to 12 midnight, then go to 11 p.m., then we'll go back to 10, we'll go back to 9, till you get to your ideal time. So if you go on our Facebook group, we actually have a book, like an article that you can download on sleep routine, sleep hygiene, how to build sleep hygiene. On the World Sleep Day, we've talked about all these tips and all that. Then you also let children learn to fall asleep on their home bed. Don't be giving them sweets or things that kind of increase their energy level at night. There's so many little things like that. Let them get comfortable sleeping in their home room. Sometimes you may want to just stay at the door for a while until they sleep, then you leave. Then let them be sleeping on your home bed. There are many tips you have to get used to but there are a lot of resources online. There are a lot of resources even on our Facebook group on sleep. I would recommend you read them first. So it's not just advice, and those advice is not something you do one day and it doesn't happen. There are things you have to do over time, because you are trying to change habits and you have to do it over weeks to get the new habits. It's not going to happen overnight. So it's not like giving paracetamol or something. No, you have to do it over time, consistently, and then it will happen. Some children actually have some sleep issues as well. Some children, sometimes we have to actually give them some medications for children that have neurodevelopmental disorders and all that. That's a different category, but I didn't hear you say your child has any medical conditions. So it's just the routine sleep hygiene we're still going to try and encourage you to do. All right, my time is up. I'm just going to round up and then we'll go. What can we use to treat rash on a 2 months old baby? We need to see the rash. We need to know what the kind of rash is. Then we'll tell you whether it's something that even need to be treated or it's something that will resolve on its own. So without seeing a rash, we cannot treat it. So I recommend you post it on our Facebook group, and then we can advise you on what to do. Okay, I guess this same person is sending to discuss. We need to see that rash first. Somebody said my 11-year-old penis appears smaller compared to his age. Okay, we need to see, we need to measure. So if you think your baby is smaller, I don't know how you are comparing to, who you are comparing to, but the pediatrician will have what is normal, what is abnormal. So you need to see, take to a hospital that has a pediatrician, preferably in a teaching hospital, because we have all those measurements. That's the way we do it. So a pediatrician needs to do the measurements. So we'll tell you whether the measurement is normal or normal. The fact that you think it's smaller may not necessarily mean it's smaller. So we need to do a objective measurement before we can now advise you. Unless you're also comparing maybe to those who are already older or in puberty. So that is why we need to see. So there's a way we measure it, and then we can advise you on what to do. Okay. The last question, somebody say on Instagram, my 3 weeks baby make noise. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's gas movement. So okay, Adupai baby, I think you're a first-time mom. I can see from your question you're a first-time mom. I'm going to recommend you get the FTM companion. Just send us a message. We'll arrange how you can get that. It will help you to understand how these things. So those are normal things. There's nothing for you to worry about. I think I lost those people on live audio. I think my internet's messed it up, but it's okay. Um, all right, so thank you everyone for listening to ATP Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back again next week. But I told you on Saturday we're going to have a special ATP Live on nutrition, better nutrition for every child. So please inform everyone and make sure you join us by 6 p.m. on Saturday. It's a special edition of ATP Live. If you still have any questions that we have not been able to answer in this program, feel free to go to our uh, Facebook groups. We have like about 4 of them. You can join the most appropriate one for you. So we have the Ask the Pediatrician, which is the main one, where you can ask all your children's health questions from Mondays to Saturdays. We don't do it on Sundays. I do get a lot of inbox about people who have questions on Sunday. We take one day to write, so nobody's going to answer questions on Sunday. But you can ask your question from Mondays to Saturday. And we also don't do inbox on Instagram. We're very sorry about that. But Instagram does not have that structure for us to be able to do it safely. So we encourage everybody to come to our Facebook group to ask your questions. You can ask your questions anonymously. You don't have to show your name. You don't have to show your picture, and nobody will know. So you have that protection on our Facebook group to ask your questions. For adult health issues, you can put it on ATP Family. And for first-time mom, we have the FTM Baby Care Ready group. And for those who have experienced either miscarriages or child losses, we have our ATP Still a Mom Nigeria group to provide you like psychological, emotional support. So those are all the groups that we have, and you can always post your questions on our groups. And remember that beyond our Facebook group, we also do offline community outreaches to indigent communities. So we've been to 28 for our Children's Day outreaches, and we're still going to go to a few more before we close it for this May-June edition. And then the next one will be in October, where we usually do our Independence Day outreaches as well. And we also go to schools. So if you want to support us, you can join us, you can donate, you can collaborate with us. We will welcome all that. All our details, I'm sure you can see it on our screen. Please follow us on all our social media pages: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can also know more. And we also have our website where you can read about topical health issues that affect your children. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and I will see you again next week. Saturday. I'll see you on Saturday first before I'll see you next week Monday. All right, bye. 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 Bye.